I want to begin by sharing a realization that required nearly 4 decades of living in Okinawa for me to finally acknowledge openly. The underlying reason why the residents of Ogimi village remain so lean past the age of 70 actually has very little connection to the factors most people in the United States assume are responsible. It is not a matter of portion control, it is not about sheer willpower, and it is not simply about increasing physical activity. I have personally weighed the plates of these women using a kitchen scale at 6:30 in the morning. The lean phenotype observed after age 70 in Ogimi village operates on a fundamentally different biological machine than the one typically described in nutrition magazines. My name is Craig Wilcox. I have dedicated the majority of my adult life to working as a researcher with the Okinawa centenarian study. My cousin Bradley serves as the geriatrician on our research team. The entire project was initiated by Makoto Suzuki back in 1976. I am the member of the team who actually resides within the villages. What I wish to discuss with you today is the concept of the metabolic floor. I will provide a specific definition for that term in just a moment. First, however, I need you to visualize Hatsue Tamori's kitchen. Hatsue is 88 years old and serves as the head cook of the Ogimi Yuimaru kitchen. The term Yuimaru translates to a circle of mutual help. Every Monday morning at 5:45 a.m., she begins the process of preparing the week's white miso. She uses the exact same wooden ladle, the same earthenware crock, and the very same starter culture that her mother-in-law passed down to her in 1962. I once asked her how much she spends per week to feed her entire household, including the extra food she provides to 2 neighboring widows. She wrote the figure down on a piece of paper, 2,400 yen. That is approximately $21 for 3 adults, covering all 7 of the specific foods I'm about to describe to you. This is not a video about hacks. These 7 foods are currently sitting on the grocery shelves of your nearest Asian supermarket. The reason they are so effective at keeping people lean after the age of 70 has a specific scientific name: basal metabolic preservation. After a person reaches about 70 years of age, a physiological shift occurs that the standard American doctor's visit usually fails to detect. Your thyroid output begins to drop slightly. Your fasting insulin levels start to climb by 2 or 3 points, even without crossing the official diabetic threshold. The phase 2 detoxification enzymes in your liver begin to slow down. Furthermore, your gut starts to lose its ability to signal satiety effectively. On the scale, your weight might stay exactly the same, but fat is quietly migrating from beneath your skin to settle around your liver, your pancreas, and your heart. This is known as the TOFI phenotype: thin on the outside, fat on the inside. The 7 foods on Hatsue's grocery list provide a defense against all 4 of those metabolic collapses. Not just one, but all 4. These are floor-holding foods. After the age of 70, maintaining that metabolic floor is everything. I am also going to introduce Sachiko Higa, who is 91 years old and maintains the market garden that supplies half the village, and Tomi Ishimine, 85, who has kept a fermentation crock active continuously since the early 1980s. They come from different households and have different temperaments, yet these 7 foods overlap in their diets. That overlap is the element that is exportable. As a quick and honest note, I will provide a 7-day menu at the end of this discussion totaling $21, $40. I will also mention a $15 Japanese kitchen tool that reduced my own preparation time by about 80%. Along with 3 specific lab numbers your doctor likely does not check, but which, in my opinion, reveal more about staying lean after 70 than any bathroom scale ever could. These are fasting insulin under 8, visceral fat under 100 square centimeters on a DXA scan, and hand grip strength over 30 kilos for men and 18 kilos for women. Please write those down. We will return to them in Chapter 5. I am not a clinician. I am a researcher who has spent 40 years observing what keeps people upright and healthy after the age when most populations begin to decline. My own father is 84 and consumes 3 of these 7 foods on a weekly basis. He is still out there mowing his own lawn. That is just one data point, and you should discuss this with your own clinician. It is important to note that the traditional pattern is changing among younger Okinawan generations. The men have fallen from the top of the Japanese male longevity tables. However, the women have held up much better because the village kitchen traditions have persisted. This suggests that the longevity effect is rooted in the diet itself, rather than some form of Okinawan magic. The diet is exportable. The fermentation crock is brown and stands 60 centimeters tall. Hatsue removes the cotton cloth covering it. She does not just smell the miso, she listens to it. She once told me that she can hear the fermentation by the way the surface holds the silence. I have no scientific explanation for what that means, but I write it down regardless. The miso she is pulling today is shiro, or white miso. It is 12 months old, which is different from the dark red miso most American cooks are familiar with. To be honest, when I first conducted a lab analysis on her miso back in 2009, my initial reaction was that something must be wrong with the spectrometer. The isoflavone aglycone load, the biologically active forms of genistein and daizine, was nearly 4 times higher than what we had measured in commercial 3-month shiro from a supplier in Tokyo. Long-fermented miso is functionally a different food than the miso found on standard store shelves. The melanoidins resulting from slow Maillard browning accumulate during the longer fermentation process. Miso is high in sodium, which theoretically should raise blood pressure. However, in Japanese cohorts, it does not. The Ito 2020 Hypertension Research Review found that habitual miso soup intake was not associated with hypertension, and in some sub-analyses, it was actually inversely associated. I am not suggesting that sodium intake does not matter. If you suffer from congestive heart failure, you must speak with your cardiologist. But for Ogimi's lean after 70 population, consuming miso soup once or twice a day has been part of their dietary stack for as long as records have existed. Their cardiac event rates are roughly half of the U.S. senior baseline. Hatsue takes 1.5 tablespoons and dissolves it in dashi. We will discuss that dashi in Food 7. Crucially, she does not boil it, as boiling kills the live organisms. She keeps it just under a simmer. Sachiko Higa takes about 2 tablespoons and adds grated daikon, plus a single umeboshi on the side, not inside the soup. Tomi Ishimini uses about 1 tablespoon and floats 2 squares of jamami tofu on top. Different households, but the same anchor food. These 7 foods are not a rigid recipe, they are a rotating stack. Each household adapts them to their dental situation, personal preference, and energy levels. The key point is that these 7 anchors consistently appear throughout the week. As a forward reference, the single kitchen tool that Hatsue, Sachiko, and Tomi all keep in their drawers is a Japanese mandolin. The Benrinair Japan Original, made of plastic and stainless steel, which costs about $15 in the US. We will return to that in Chapter 5. Remember the name. Food number 1 is 12-month shiro miso, consumed at 1 to 2 tablespoons per day. The mechanism involves the melanoidin and isoflavone, a glycone load defending vascular function despite the sodium content. The cost is about $4.20 per week from a 500g tub. Food number 2 is umeboshi, which are salted shiso purple plums, Prunus mum. Sachiko eats one with every lunch, sometimes pressing it into her rice until the flesh dissolves and only the pit remains. The Okinawan name for this is Hinomaru Bento, or the Japanese flag lunchbox, featuring a red plum on white rice. The biology here is significant. Citric acid combined with mumferol slows gastric emptying and reduces platelet aggregation. On a continuous glucose monitor, if you eat a bowl of rice without the plum, your blood sugar peaks high and crashes hard. With the plum on the side, the curve is visibly flatter. I have CGM data from 12 Ogimi seniors showing this consistently. A smaller spike and an earlier return to baseline. Tomi also sucks on half a plum after dinner as a salivary buffer. She still has most of her teeth at age 85. The cost is about $2.80 per week. Food number 3 is hijiki, which is not the same as mozuku. It is a different seaweed called Sargassum fusiform, dried into short black strips. You soak it for 20 to 30 minutes, discard the water, and then simmer it briefly with daikon strips and average tofu skin. The reason hijiki is important is its iodine content, which is roughly 390 micrograms per gram dry. After age 70, thyroid output tends to drift, and subclinical hypothyroidism is a silent driver of senior metabolic decline. Consuming 1 to 2 small servings a week provides the necessary substrate. However, there are 2 warnings. First, hijiki contains inorganic arsenic. The UK Food Standards Agency advises against it, but the Japanese Ministry of Health takes a more moderate view because the traditional soaking and discarding of water removes approximately 60% of the load. The Okinawan dose is small, about 10 gr dry per week. If you have a documented arsenic concern or a kidney condition, consult your physician first. The second warning is non-negotiable. If you take warfarin or any other vitamin K-sensitive blood thinner, you must not start eating hijiki without speaking to your doctor. The combination of iodine and vitamin K can significantly shift your INR. This also applies to levothyroxine and amiodarone. You should arrange an INR check at 1 and 2 weeks. The cost is about $1.90 per week from a 50 gr dried pack. Food number 4 is jimami tofu. In the Okinawan dialect, jimami means peanut. This is a peanut-based tofu where raw peanuts are ground into a milk, and then sweet potato starch or kuzu is whisked in until it sets into a silky white block. The texture is closer to panna cotta. Tomi makes it from scratch every Wednesday, topping it with a drop of soy sauce and some grated ginger. Why choose this over soy tofu? The peanut protein matrix is rich in arginine and is slower to digest. The resistant starch from the kuzu helps flatten the glucose curve after a serving. Additionally, jimami contains no soy isoflavones, making it a clean substitute protein for seniors with thyroid concerns who have been advised to limit soy. Honestly, the first time I ate jimami in Tomi's kitchen in the late 90s, I felt it was the most underrated food in the Okinawan diet. Foreign visitors are often directed toward Goya. Goya is excellent, but it is also brutally bitter, and most Americans will not stick with it. Jimami, however, is something a 75-year-old with mild dental issues can enjoy any day. The cost is about $3.40 per week. Food number 5 is daikon, specifically raw and grated. Sachiko grows her own, taking 70 days from seed to counter in the Ogimi soil. She grates the root on her Ben Reiner mandolin, that is the tool I mentioned, into a wet, snowy pile in about 90 seconds. Doing it by hand would take 12 to 15 minutes. Consuming it raw is essential because of the enzymes. Daikon contains glucoraphasatin and the enzyme myrosinase. When you grate the root, the cells break, and myrosinase converts the precursor into sulforaphane, an isothiocyanate. Its function is phase 2 detoxification. Your liver processes metabolic waste through 2 phases. Phase 1 activates compounds, and phase 2 conjugates them for clearance by the kidneys. After age 70, phase 2 activity drops, and levels of glutathione S-transferase, NADPH, and quinone dehydrogenase all decline. Daikon isothiocyanates upregulate exactly those enzymes. The catch is heat. Cooked daikon loses its myrosinase. Therefore, the village pattern is to serve raw grated daikon on the side, about 2 tablespoons, often as daikon oroshi with ginger. One root costs about $2.50 and lasts a week. Food number 6 is beni imo karinto. This is the deep purple-fleshed Okinawan sweet potato, not the orange American variety. It has an anthocyanin load of around 12 milligallon per gram dry. Karinto refers to the preparation, thin sticks that are briefly sun-dried, fried quickly, and then coated with kokuto, which is unrefined Okinawan brown sugar that still contains magnesium, potassium, and iron from the cane. These are crunchy, slightly sweet sticks, weighing maybe 2 GOR each. I want to be honest about why I'm including a fried, sugared snack in a list for metabolic preservation. It is because of the kokuto and the timing. The ogimi pattern involves eating about 25 gram, roughly 10 to 12 sticks, at 3 in the afternoon with green tea. This is the cortisol window. Late afternoon is when cortisol levels rise and drive the most intense cravings. Consuming a dense anthocyanin snack with mineral-rich sugar at that exact window flattens the craving curve for the remainder of the day. The scientific justification lies in the microbiome. Suda, 2003, documented that purple sweet potato anthocyanins shift gut microbiota toward higher levels of bifidobacterium. After age 70, microbiome diversity collapses, if not actively maintained, and that collapse correlates with a loss of satiety signaling. The cost is about $3.20 per week. Food number 7 is kombu dashi, made from Saccharina japonica. a giant kelp dried into thick, leathery sheets. You gently wipe a 10 cm strip with a damp cloth, never wash it, and steep it overnight in cold water. In the morning, apply gentle heat until it is just under a simmer, pulling the kombu out before it boils. That liquid is your dashi. Hatsue's miso soup is built on this dashi, as is Sachiko's clear vegetable broth and the simmering liquid for Tomi's jimami. The mechanism here is free L-glutamate, about 0.16 joule per liter, which is detected by gut vagal afferents that trigger the release of cholecystokinin, CCK. CCK is the satiety hormone. After age 70, the CCK satiety signal weakens. This savory umami signal works where calorie counting cannot. The cost is about $3.40 per week from a 30G pack. So, those are the 7: shiromiso, umeboshi, hijiki, jimami, daikon, beniimo karinto, and kombudashi. The total cost is $21.40. Before we look at the menu, let's consider the 3 grandmothers one more time. Hatsue delivers covered bento boxes by handcart to 3 widows. She does not own a kitchen scale. When I asked how she knows the correct amount of miso, she said, "When the spoon stands by itself in the soup for 2 seconds and then falls, it is right." Sachiko, at 91, walks 30 minutes to the Saturday market in Ogimi with 12 kilo of daikon, beniimo, and shiso on her back. She says supermarket daikon lacks the necessary bite. Tomi's miso starter has been continuous since approximately 1981, inherited from a great aunt. She told me quite seriously, "If the crock dies, the family will not survive me." She would not elaborate further, but I have my own interpretation. The list is what remains when you reduce the habits of 3 different 90-year-old village women down to their overlap. That overlap is what is exportable. Sunday afternoon is for batch preparation, taking about 40 minutes. You soak 3 liters of kombu dashi, wash and dry the week's daikon, and make 1 batch of jimami tofu, which takes 20 minutes from start to chill. Confirm that the shiro miso top has not dried out, and place the umeboshi jar where you can reach it daily. That is the preparation. The daily rotation is as follows. Monday features miso soup plus a germinated square and grated daikon. Lunch is brown rice with umeboshi, simmered hijiki, and daikon. At 3 p.m., have green tea and 12 karinto sticks. Dinner is kombu dashi vegetable soup with sweet potato and tofu. Tuesday is miso soup with grated daikon. Lunch is germinated grains with ginger, brown rice, and hijiki salad. Dinner is a kombu dashi noodle bowl with an umeboshi side. Wednesday involves making a fresh germinated batch, miso soup, and warm germinated grains with ginger. The snack is karinto, and dinner is clear kombu dashi with seasonal greens. Thursday is hijiki day, with a second small serving at lunch, miso soup, and a grated daikon side. Umeboshi is included at every meal, with a kombu dashi miso soup for dinner. Friday is tofu and daikon day, featuring miso soup, a heavy germinated lunch, daikon at every meal, karinto in the afternoon, and a light kombu dashi dinner. Saturday is a light day with miso soup and cold salmon and chilled kombu dashi with umeboshi. Dinner is miso soup with the last of the daikon. That is 7 days for a total of $21.40. Miso soup once daily, umeboshi at least once daily, grated daikon almost every day, hijiki twice, germinated grains 3 to 4 times, karinto as the cortisol window, snack 4 to 5 days, and kombu dashi is the silent foundation under almost everything. These costs assume you are shopping at H-Mart, Mitsuwa, or Tokyo Central. If you don't have an Asian supermarket nearby, Amazon Pantry and the Eden Foods catalog will bring the cost to about $26 for the week, still under $30. Regarding the tool, the Ben Rainer Japan Original Mandolin is about $15 on Amazon. Every village kitchen has one because it collapses the preparation time for daikon, ginger, kombu, and beniimo into seconds. Always use the finger guard. Lacerations from unguarded mandolines are common enough that surgeons have a specific name for them. The guard is not optional. For modifications, there are 3 categories. For dental issues, miso soup is already soft. Umeboshi can be pressed into rice. Hijiki can be simmered longer. jimami is soft, and grated daikon is mush. Karinto can be swapped for mashed warm beniimo with kukuto stirred in. For sodium, if you are on a strict low-sodium protocol for CHF or kidney disease, reduce the miso to half a tablespoon and dilute it with more dashi and skip or rinse the umeboshi. Hijiki, daikon, jimami, and kombu dashi are intrinsically low in sodium. For warfarin and vitamin K-sensitive medications, this is the most important modification. Hijiki is high in vitamin K and iodine, which can shift your INR or interfere with thyroid medication. If you take warfarin, levothyroxine, or amiodarone, do not add hijiki without consulting your doctor and arranging an INR check. The other 6 foods are safer, but consistency in your pattern is key. Finally, the lab markers. Fasting insulin should be under 8 microunits per milliliter. U.S. labs often report up to 25 as normal, but that is not useful for seniors. Visceral fat should be under 100 square centimeters on a DXA scan, which identifies the TOFI pattern that scales miss. Hand grip strength should be over 30 kg for men and 18 kg for women. Anything below that indicates sarcopenia. Track these every 3 months. They will tell you if the foods are working better than a scale ever will. Do not expect the scale to move dramatically. These are not weight loss foods. What should change is your body composition. Visceral fat retreats while hand grip strength holds. Hatsue, Sachiko, and Tomi all belong to the same moai, a mutual support group of women who have eaten together for nearly 70 years. Whether the moai contributes independently of the diet is hard to say, but eating these foods is only half the protocol. Finding someone to share a Monday miso soup with is the other half. Write this down, save it, and tell a friend who needs it. The protective effect is the diet, not the genetics, which means it can move toward you if you want it to. 40 years of field work, 3 village grandmothers, 7 cheap foods, and 1 metabolic floor. That is what I came here to give you. If this exploration of Okinawan longevity has shifted your perspective on the hidden power of traditional foods, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. We are dedicated to uncovering the historical and nutritional truths that have often been overlooked. Let's cultivate a healthier future together. The next treasury of wisdom will be revealed very soon.